Some people don't become powerful because life was easy on them. They become powerful because life broke them first. The calmest person in the room? Sometimes they survived chaos no one could imagine. The quiet one everyone underestimated? They learned early that speaking less reveals more. And the most dangerous people emotionally are often the ones who once felt completely powerless. That's the part nobody talks about. Because broken people don't just heal. Sometimes they evolve. And once they understand human behavior, emotional control, and psychological patterns, they become almost impossible to manipulate. That's why some of the strongest minds in history were built through pain, betrayal, humiliation, abandonment, rejection, and emotional warfare. Not despite it, because of it. And this is where most people fail to understand human psychology. Pain changes the brain, especially emotional pain. When someone grows up in unpredictable environments, constantly criticized, ignored, manipulated, or emotionally unsafe, their nervous system adapts for survival. They begin scanning rooms differently. They notice tone shifts instantly, micro-expressions, energy changes, hidden intentions. A normal person walks into a conversation. A broken person studies it without even realizing it, because survival trained them to read danger before danger arrived. That's why people who've suffered deeply often develop an unusual level of emotional intelligence. Not the fake social media version. Real emotional intelligence. The kind that sees through masks. The kind that notices insecurity behind arrogance. Fear behind anger. Manipulation behind charm. And confidence behind silence. They learned human behavior the hard way. Through experience. Through pain. Through observation. And once that awareness becomes conscious, everything changes. Because now they're not just surviving people. They understand people. That's a completely different level of power. Think about it. Why are some of the most emotionally sharp people also the most private? Why do some deeply wounded people become incredibly disciplined? Why do certain individuals walk into a room and instantly control the energy without saying much? Because pain forced them to master internal control. When your emotions once caused chaos in your life, eventually you either collapse or you become obsessed with mastering yourself. That obsession creates transformation, and transformation creates presence. There's a reason emotionally damaged people often become hyper-independent. At some point, they stopped expecting rescue. That changes a person permanently. When someone learns they can only rely on themselves, they stop seeking validation the way most people do. Approval loses power over them. Rejection loses power over them. Loneliness loses power over them. And suddenly, society can't control them as easily anymore. That's dangerous, especially in a world built on emotional dependency. But here's where it gets darker. Broken people often develop something psychologists rarely explain properly: pattern recognition. Extreme pattern recognition. They begin noticing repeated emotional behaviors everywhere. Who lies? Who performs? Who pretends? Who envies? Who hides resentment behind politeness? Who wants attention? Who wants control? And once you start seeing human behavior clearly, you can never fully unsee it again. That's why many deeply aware people become quieter over time. Not because they're weak, because they see too much. They know most conversations are performances. Most confidence is compensation. Most aggression is insecurity wearing armor. And most people are terrified of being emotionally exposed. That's why calm people make others nervous, especially calm people who suffered before, because they don't react the way manipulators expect. And manipulators rely on reactions. That's their fuel. But emotionally evolved people, they became comfortable with discomfort a long time ago. Pressure doesn't scare them anymore. Chaos feels familiar. Silence feels safe. And this is where broken people begin developing psychological power most people never reach. Emotional detachment, not coldness. Control. There's a difference. See, weak people react emotionally to everything. Strong people observe first. And people forged through emotional pain often become elite observers. They watch before speaking, analyze before trusting, listen before revealing themselves. That restraint creates mystery, and mystery creates psychological influence, because humans fear what they cannot fully read. That's why emotionally disciplined individuals often appear intimidating without trying. They don't overshare. They don't seek approval constantly. They don't panic under pressure, and they don't emotionally chase people. That alone separates them from most of society. But power born from pain has another side too, a dangerous side. Some broken people become emotionally intelligent. Others become emotionally manipulative. Because once someone understands fear, insecurity, loneliness, guilt, attraction, and validation deeply enough, they can influence human behavior very easily. That's the shadow side of trauma. Some people heal. Some people weaponize what hurt them. And honestly, many people do both. That's the uncomfortable truth. The person who reads emotions perfectly may not always use that skill ethically. The person who understands attachment may learn how to create emotional addiction. The person who understands insecurity may learn how to control insecure people. That's why self-awareness matters, because pain gives you access to psychological tools, but character determines how you use them. And this is exactly why certain individuals become magnetic after suffering. Not louder, magnetic. There's a difference. People can feel emotional depth, even subconsciously, especially in social dynamics and attraction. A person who has faced rejection, loneliness, betrayal, and internal battles often develops a different kind of presence. Less needy, less reactive, more grounded, more dangerous, because they no longer fear losing everything emotionally. And humans instinctively respect people who are emotionally unshaken. Watch the body language of someone who survived difficult years. Their movements become slower, more intentional. Their eye contact changes. Their reactions become measured. They stop trying to convince everyone to like them. That quiet certainty changes social dynamics immediately. People feel it before they understand it. And that's why some wounded individuals become incredibly attractive socially. Not because they're perfect, because they feel real. In a world full of performance, authenticity becomes power. But there's another layer most people never notice. Broken people often become obsessed with control because chaos once controlled them. That's why many high performers come from painful backgrounds. Athletes, entrepreneurs, leaders, artists, strategists. They're not just chasing success. They're escaping helplessness. That internal drive becomes relentless because they remember what it felt like to have no power, no voice, no safety, no certainty. So they build strength obsessively, mentally, financially, physically, emotionally, and eventually, the same pain that almost destroyed them becomes fuel. But fuel can burn in two directions, forward or inward. That's why some powerful people secretly feel empty, because achievement doesn't automatically heal emotional wounds. You can master rooms and still battle yourself privately. You can become respected and still feel unseen internally. That's the paradox of trauma-driven success. External power doesn't guarantee internal peace. And maybe this part will hit harder than anything else in this video. Some broken people become powerful because they stopped expecting love to save them. Read that again carefully. Once someone realizes no person is coming to rescue their confidence, their healing, or their future, they change completely. That's when discipline replaces fantasy. That's when emotional control replaces emotional chaos. That's when self-respect becomes survival. And suddenly they become dangerous in the best possible way. Not abusive, not cruel, unshakable, because life already tested them at levels most people would never survive mentally. They adapted, quietly, and people rarely notice transformation while it's happening. At first they just see someone becoming distant, more private, more focused, harder to manipulate, harder to emotionally control. But underneath that silence, a completely different mind is forming. A stronger one, a sharper one, a calmer one. They never saw it coming. And this is where everything changes. Because eventually, the broken person realizes something powerful. Their pain gave them vision, the ability to read people, to understand emotional dynamics, to detect manipulation, to stay calm under pressure, to survive uncertainty, to rebuild themselves repeatedly. That's not weakness. That's psychological armor, earned the hard way. But the final evolution happens when they stop identifying as broken entirely. Because the strongest people don't stay trapped in victimhood forever. They use pain as information, as fuel, as wisdom. Then they move forward. And once someone reaches that stage, their presence becomes different. Calmer, cleaner, more focused. They stop trying to prove themselves constantly. Because true power doesn't scream, it observes. And if you've been through darkness yourself, if you've ever felt abandoned, underestimated, emotionally exhausted, betrayed, or psychologically drained, understand this carefully. Your pain may have changed you, but it also trained you. The question is whether you'll become bitter or become precise. Because broken people become powerful when they stop asking why life hurt them and start asking what the pain taught them. That's when survival transforms into mastery. And mastery changes everything.